Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours at the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. Unforgettable, historical, educational.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Whispers on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is 6:09 p.m. Beautiful day outside. We had a beautiful night, too. Didn't we, Lo?
What happened?
No.
Yeah. What'd I miss? Damn, I was sleeping through it, I guess.
That's how you leave lasting impressions, ladies and gentlemen.
Jordan is usually experienced with girls sleeping through dates, so it's not surprising to him.
Oh.
Give us a call.
He's like,
214-214-1600 if you're out of the area.
That doesn't normally happen on dates.
The number's 866-514-1600.
You're
That's
turning
toll-free.
red.
As well as he should.
Somebody save me.
Oh, you poor baby.
I know. How do you
Have
think
I
I feel?
blogged since the last show?
I think you did blog, Lola.
Did I?
I think there was like a whole page of blog
Yes,
from Lola.
I think I have like 5 or 6 up there now.
Now you got to put the pictures of the kittens on there.
Yes, I do, because anybody that wants a kitten, mine will be ready in 7 weeks.
And they are pretty little kitties too. You should
She
get
can
a
weigh as
picture.
a
Put a
guest.
picture on the
Yeah.
blog. We'll teach you how to do that.
First 3 callers get a kitten.
First 3 callers tonight get a Whispers kitty.
I'll tell you what's amazing is the personalities those 3 have already. And they were born on Thursday. So they're not even a week old yet. But the little orange and white striped one, the tiger striped, it's a loudmouth and a piggy. It's the fattest one out of all of them. And as soon as you touch it, wah, wah, wah.
Aww.
The little black one, and it has just a little bit of white under his chin, he's really laid back. You can move him, you can pet him, and he doesn't even care. Then the third one is the runt of the litter, and I'm not sure whether they're boys or girls yet, but looks just like its mama.
Do you know how to tell the difference?
I'm going to have Mary Ann's kids tell me, because I'm not sure, truthfully. On that side,
there's a dead giveaway if you flip them over.
Oh my God! I think I've got 3 boy cats. Then,
I respect their privacy. I wouldn't do that.
Well, they kind of flop any way they want when they're. But that littlest one, he is a scrapper, and as tiny as he is, he's trying to beat the other ones off the food source and scrabbling with his legs and crying and everything. And so, I mean, they really, all 3 of them have such distinct personalities already. And she is a good mommy and a really sweetheart of a cat. I mean, for just rescuing her, I put her in the room, gradually let the dog in. So now Gretchen could care less about her. I leave the door open all the time and Gretchen doesn't even go in there. The other cats, however, are the ones that, particularly the Oss, is really having a hard time with this sharing of attention. And poor Gretchen will be laying on the floor, and she'll lift her head up, and Oss comes walking by. He'll sit down, and ba-boom, double hit her. And she's just looking at him like, what did I do? And he'll go, nah, and walk away. Nah. But Lucy started, that's the mama kitty's name, Lucy. She started investigating now, and she came all the way downstairs today. But I just don't want her to move them. And
yeah, they'll do that.
Well, she had them. I had a birth box all set up for her, and she was going in there on her own and kind of nesting, moving the blanket around. But I went in to see her at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I knew she was in labor, and it was heartbreaking. But, she was in labor, so I was petting her and trying to calm her and that kind of thing. Then I left the room, and when I went back in at 9:30, she'd had the first one, which was the black one, and she had it right by the door. And I think she must have followed me to the door, and then boom, out it came, and then I went home. Bill let me go home at 12:30 just to, check on her and make sure everything was going smoothly. And she'd had the 2 more. And when I got home at 3:30, she had a 4th, but it didn't make it.
Oh.
And that one was gray and white tiger striped.
Oh,
and it
wow.
was so big. And I think that's probably what happened, is that she
Too
just
big
had
for
such
Mama.
because she's a tiny little cat and so tiny. Now that she's not pregnant, I'm used to my fat ones, and I go to pick her up and I almost throw her over my shoulder because there's no weight there. But 7 weeks, everybody. I will have 3 kitties that I want
And
to.
that black one, it's just dark. It looks like she's blacked it out with a marker.
Yeah.
That's so dark compared to the other cats.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Wow.
First 3 callers right now gets a.
We'll mail them to you.
It'll be hard.
We'll box it up.
They'll be ready to go right around. Well, I have an appointment with her to get her fixed.
Yeah.
October 30th. And that'll be just about the time, that the kittens are ready to be given away. And I'll have to be extremely careful with the black cat because a lot of shelters and things won't even adopt out black cats anywhere around
Why?
Halloween. Because people are sick and think black cats and spooks and, all that kind of stuff. And there's a high incidence of abuse of black cats around Halloween.
That is a beautiful little kid. It's like jet black.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I can't. Well, I'm curious to see. Somebody's told me she has some blue point Siamese in her because her eyes are real pale blue and she's kind of got the Siamese markings. But thank God she doesn't cry like one. In fact, she hardly ever cries. She'll open her little mouth and just almost like a squeak comes out. Because I thought maybe there was something wrong with her at first because she didn't cry out loud. Now, of course, birthing, she certainly let out some bellows. So I know she's got good vocal cords. But, yeah. She was calling that boy cat every name under the sun. I know, because I'm a cat whisperer.
I wasn't going to say anything.
But I'm real happy that everything, 3 kittens is enough. Now like Marianne from here, her cat had 7. So, and they all were healthy and all survived. So she's got 7 kittens to give away. So between the 2 of us, the station has 10 kittens to give away.
We can definitely push them.
I think somebody in New York wants one on the chat room. So.
Okay, I'll just jump in my car. Is it Lily?
Yeah.
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 Lily, we'll talk later. I could use a trip to New York. I'll deliver the kitty.
For those of you out there, this is the first time in the last 8 years that school has started and Nick hasn't had to go.
8 years? No.
This
is the first time ever since you started kindergarten, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, no. Actually, I didn't go to school right when I left high school. So, when did I graduated? 97. I started back in 2000, 2005. So I had a break there. Don't shake your head at me.
It was like 2004.
No, it was 2005. Oh wait, no, you're right. 2004.
Come on now.
Okay.
Come on now. Let's not push.
Technically 2003, but I was only doing like a class or so. I was working.
That's right. I'm just glad that you graduated. He said, he's like, hey, you know who got to sleep in today and didn't have to wake up for class? Oh, that I did. Not me, because I had to wake up today and go to class because I keep going back for more. But I'm not a career college man like Nikki.
Yeah, I keep waiting for him to announce he's started his master's
I'm starting
program.
my double doctorate program.
Yes. Well, we have our guest is now waiting.
Tonight, we have Mr. Link Alexander, whose book is called The UFO Alien Thought Machines. Believes that aliens actually create the UFOs with their thoughts. And I'm interested to hear what's going on. Link, you with us?
Wait a minute. There you go.
Are you sure, Link?
Yeah.
I'm here.
There we are.
Okay.
So tell us about this book.
Well, the book deals with the paranormal aspect of the whole UFO alien phenomenon. And I suppose to get to the point it might be just as well to consider the whole business right from the start. When a UFO appears, and I've had 4 sightings, so
Oh, wow.
they're not hard to recognize, believe me. They're very different than aircraft or anything else that's in the sky. The UFO generally just appears like out of nowhere. And then it does incredible things like 90-degree changes of direction at very high speed, instant stops, instant starts, that type of things. Maneuvers that are impossible for physical aircraft or physical creations in our physical universe.
Well, now to get a little bit of background on you, you actually were a pilot, correct?
I was a pilot for 45 years. And also, though, I have a good understanding of psychic phenomena because I've studied psychic phenomena for many years with Rosicrucians, and I've taken other studies since. I can astral project to a degree.
Really?
And I am familiar with the esoteric sciences.
All right. Now, for those listening out there, you want to explain what astral projection is?
Well, astral projection is the ability to take your consciousness out of your body and travel in full consciousness away from your body into another dimension, and that is the astral dimension.
Kind of like a brain Stargate.
Well, yes, it is. It's taking your soul, your being, your consciousness out of your physical body and going into another dimension. And that the astral dimension has many properties that are very different. It has its own laws. And while we're talking about it, it's useful to know some of the laws of the astral dimension. And one is that in the astral dimension, your astral is indestructible. There's nothing that can harm it. You could fly through the nuclear fires of the sun and come out unscathed.
That's why the devil has so much fun torturing it.
Well, there you go. And another property is that you can shapeshift. You can create yourself into any shape or any size. You can travel instantly anywhere.
So when you, I'm guessing that when you astral project that you shapeshift.
You can.
What do you do? What do you change into?
I don't. The best thing to go is your astral as you are, as a human shape.
Okay.
When you start taking on other forms, there's other things can happen. So generally you want to avoid that. You go as your own shape and size. Also, the ability when you're in the astral, you can travel through material objects. A door or a wall is no barrier. You can simply pass through.
Okay.
Now, the incredible thing is we can also make use of this dimension as a physical entity. And we know this from people like Uri Geller, who was jogging down the streets of New York and just vanished. And he crashed through the porch of Andrei Puharich, who is a psychiatrist who was examining Uri Geller, doing many studies with him, 33 miles away. And this instant translocation of Uri Geller physically happened in another dimension. It was instantaneous, and it's done in the physical dimension as well as our psyche or our soul or our consciousness. So it's important to know this because we have the aliens operating in these dimensions, both psychically and physically.
Mm-hmm.
So now we get to taking the whole thing from the beginning. We see these vehicles, and the early stages when they were first seen, they appeared to be simply vehicles of light or some kind of radiation or something we really didn't understand because they were behaving like energy. For instance, a UFO would fly through the atmosphere, and we've reported them on radar at flying in excess of 40,000 miles per hour. They don't make a sonic boom, and they don't burn up. Well, any physical object flying through our atmosphere at those speeds definitely would make a sonic boom and would definitely burn up. We know that from the Challenger disaster that come in the atmosphere at 18,000 miles an hour, and the objects will burn as the meteors do. So now we considered the UFOs at first to be simply images or variations of light or magnetism or the many explanations that people have put forward. But in a short time, the UFOs began to land, and when they landed, they left imprints. And being the type of species that we are, we shot at them with rifles and so on.
Of course.
There would be a metallic clang. So when the bullets would hit the UFO and you hear this metallic clang, you know they're solid. So here we have objects that behave like energy, but they're solid. How can we possibly understand something that will fly through our atmosphere that's a solid vehicle at 40,000 miles per hour and not burn up and not make a sonic boom? We have a real dilemma here in understanding this whole thing. And I was like everybody else. When Kenneth Arnold first saw his UFOs, I became interested in them immediately. And I was like everybody else in trying to find an explanation. I was looking for a physical explanation. Well, there are physical explanations for some of the things that aliens do, because the aliens and the UFOs are indeed physical. But at the same time, they can be other dimensional as well. And that dimension is the astral dimension. And the aliens operate in both dimensions, one or the other, or both at the same time. Now, once we discovered that they were physical, then we have a real dilemma for things like Roswell, for instance. Here are these vehicles flying around that do impossible things according to science, and incidentally, science rejects the UFO. They don't exist according to science, which is rather odd, because there are thousands of authenticated photographs, there are miles of video, there are hours of recorded radar images, and of course the physical traces left on the ground imprints and so on, and also the consensus of hundreds of thousands of witnesses, which is certainly evidence in the court of law, but it's not suitable evidence for the scientific community.
Now, real quick, we got a a question for from our chat room asking, is what you're talking about akin to biological technology, like the ship is alive as well as the computers inside the ship?
Well, that's a good question, and a lot of abductees seem to say that the ship feels like it's alive. When people have had these huge triangles pass over their head at night, they felt that the ship or something was watching them, that the ship was alive. Yes, now getting around to creating material objects with the mind, well, we'll get to that in a second. But so what we find is we know a certain amount about the UFOs from observation, from the photographs, from this and that, but we didn't find out really much about them until abductions started to be revealed. And of course, the first and most famous abduction was Betty and Barney Hill, which took place in '61. So now we knew that it was past just the landing and looking stage. It was now a case of contact with humans. And of course, Betty and Barney Hill were written about in a book in '65. And after that, literally, it was an avalanche of revelation after that. All kinds of people, abductees, started to come forward with their experiences. And this is where we really find out about the alien and their ships and their purpose for being here is from the abductees. Now, we have to say right off the bat, it's not like the evidence, photographic evidence or the radar evidence and so on for the UFO. All of the evidence about abduction is anecdotal. It's people telling their stories of what they've experienced, and most of it is revealed under hypnosis, because the aliens can very effectively erase the conscious memories of the event. So what we have now is all of these abductions and people revealing what the aliens are like, what they do, and in the final analysis, some of the psychiatrists who've done many interviews with the abductees now postulate what the purpose of the alien visit is and what they're doing. But I think here it's also useful to describe the aliens themselves. And there's lots of images of this, of the big head, the huge eyes, insect-like eyes. They have no ears. They have pinpricks for a nose, tiny slits for a mouth, and the head, as some people have described, looks like an apple on a stick. The neck is very thin, hardly seems strong enough to support this huge head. The body is very square. The shoulders are square. The arms are straight. There's no musculature showing. The back and the front of the body is very straight. There's no bump for a posterior. The legs are very slim and straight. And the alien does not appear to have organs. People aren't sure whether they're wearing a very tight one-piece suit or whether they're not wearing anything at all.
Yeah, I've heard, not to interrupt you, but I've heard that those are indicators of, this being like a manufactured type of, being, kind of like an engineered, bioengineered.
Right.
Do you believe that, or do you believe that's it's more of a?
No, I think it's a live entity,
okay.
and not what do we call them? Robots.
Sure.
But the reason people know they're alive, for instance, the aliens have control over people they want to abduct. They at a distance, and we don't know what that distance is.
Now, what do you mean control?
Well, they command people to drive to certain locations for abduction, or they prepare them. They tell them they're going to be abducted, or they direct them to go to certain places, walk to certain places, or drive to certain places to be abducted. And people obey these commands. They don't know why they're doing it. They just do it. They know they have to do it, and they do it. And when the person is abducted, there are a lot of interesting things take place which very strongly point to the astral dimension. For instance, if an abduction takes place at night, the area is lit with light that casts no shadows. Now, I suppose we could say that that's backlighting, but not in the case of outdoors.
Okay, so what you're saying is that UFO abductions are like a forced astral projection?
Absolutely. They put the scene and the abductee into an astral state. When they arrive for an abduction, the abductee is in an astral state. The whole scene is in an astral state. So at night you can have an area lit completely with a light that casts no shadows. Now, if the person is taken out of their home, they're taken out through the walls or through the ceiling or through a window. They don't need to open doors and get outside in the same manner as we do.
Okay, we have another question from the chat room.
Okay.
Maybe probably actually go right into this. From UFO Clearinghouse, he asked, is that why many abductees have chips? And are the chips used to control or track the abductees?
Many abductees have what? Chips?
Chips or implants?
Implants, yes, they do. Yeah. Yes. Yes, they do. And a lot of people seem to think that the implants were for the purposes of tracking, but that's not the case at all, because the aliens track people by their thoughts. In fact, that's how we were discovered out of the vastness of the universe. Our planet was discovered by thoughts, but that's a whole big topic about behavior in the astral. People who know how can read the thoughts of anyone, anywhere. And our thoughts go into the astral realm, into astral matter, and can be read by any aliens or any species that has the ability to do it. We're on the cusp of that, our great psychics. But anyway, the implants are for a different purpose. And the purpose is not entirely known, but it's speculated. What the aliens tell a lot of the abductees is, this is here because there's something that's been given to you that you do not know about now, but will be revealed to you at a certain time in the future.
Huh.
So the implant is there to put this knowledge in people that they don't have privy to when they're abducted.
Now, do you think that they are how do I say, aware that they've been implanted, like, all the time?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, abductees are very aware of that.
Okay, so I couldn't be walking around with an implant and not know it?
Well, you would know it initially. They use a sharp-pointed object and they push it up through the nose, and people hear a great
Okay,
crack.
I would know.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break,
Okay.
and then we'll be right back. We got a lot more questions, and I'm really interested in listening to all this stuff. You're listening to AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. The former West Virginia Penitentiary housed some of the most violent criminals in history. Many of the prisoners who lived there also died there. It is known for being one of the most bloody institutions in the United States. Don't miss your chance to experience the former West Virginia Penitentiary. Your tour will consist of an astonishing 90 minutes that offers an awesome history, a touch of art, cold hard facts, and an education of the justice system. Tours start 11 a.m. Tuesday through Sunday. For more information, go to www.wvpentours.com or call them at 304-843-4146. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Whispers on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is 6:36 p.m., about 80 degrees outside here in downtown Wheeling. I'm Jordan Klein, here with Nick Queen and the lovely Lola Miller. Give us a call, 304-214-1600. If you're out of the area, call toll-free, 1-866-514-1600. Our guest today is Mr. Link Alexander. His book, UFO, Alien Thought Machines. Link, you with us?
Yes, I am.
How we doing?
We're doing terrific.
Okay, now, we were just talking about how implants, they shove them up your nose, they hurt real bad. They're used for more things than just tracking and mind control. We just had a gentleman in the chat room say that they hurt like heck, and a doctor actually took one out of him, and it was tested to have a high content of silica and quartz in it.
That seems to be the case, yes, and that's fascinating that you've had someone who's had an implant and had it removed. That's absolutely fascinating. I only know, I think, of about 3 people who have been abductees, and they don't talk about it much. Mostly what people remember is the initial contact of the UFO approaching, and then they see the UFO going away, and everything that's happened in between for an hour and a half or 2 hours has been erased by the aliens. And the fact that you have a person there who is aware of this, that it hurt like blazes when it was inserted, which isn't very pleasant. Apparently people hear a great crunching through the bone as this thing is put up the nose and inserted just below the brain. Also, they're stuck in the ear, but the implants can be virtually anywhere in the body. They can be seen with ultrasound, and most people do not have them removed. Some people who've had them removed say that they felt that something essential in the body has gone missing. They seem to miss having it when it's removed. So that's the opinion of some abductees. But
okay, I got another question for you, and this is my own. This isn't from the chat room. I had a discussion a few months ago with an abductee who described. I want to say that alien. He said that aliens aren't what we think they are, like physically, because they project the image to you of what either they think you want to see or they think you expect to see. You don't really see their true images. He said he'd go. Okay.
That's a characteristic of the astral realm. You can project yourself in any shape or size. And the aliens do this initially for abduction sometime when they want to lead a child somewhere. They may show up as a deer or a dog or an owl or any other animal to lead children to a spot for abduction. The aliens often present themselves as humans, when they're examining people inside the UFO, the abductee, to make the abductee feel better and so on. But after a time, they see the human morph back into the alien. So appearing as something else in the astral takes energy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can do that with the expenditure of energy. You can be any shape, any size, be anything you want. But when you get back to your normal shape, that's the shape you really are. And I talk about this in the book to some degree. What we're seeing about the Greys is probably very real. Although they can morph into many shapes and sizes, they eventually come back to what most people describe, and that's the alien that's about 3 feet high, and how I've just described them.
Now, this would be the Grey, right?
The Grey.
Now, why do you think that most of the time you hear of the Greys and the reptilian type? Now, why are these the only two species that we really hear so much about? Why are these two so intrigued with our culture or our planet, I guess?
Well, it would appear that we have a very, very hospitable planet, and from everything that the Greys are doing, it has every appearance that they're going to be joining us to live on this planet. And this, in many ways, is told to the abductees that in the very near future, there's going to be a very big change occur on Earth. And it's often described as catastrophic. Now, whether that catastrophe is originated by them or us is not made clear, but they do show the abductees many scenes of devastation, as in an atomic conflict. And that's when the abductees or the aliens say that they will intervene in human affairs, and that's when the aliens will come to live with us. And that seems to be their whole point of what they're doing. And what they're doing is the vast effort they're putting into the creation of hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people who are interested in the topic know that this is what's going on. They take a woman's egg and the man's semen, they combine it into an embryo, and then they modify it. And this modified embryo is inserted in a woman, and it stays there for 2 or 3 months, and the woman is re-abducted, and this is taken out. And the fetus that's there has the large head, the large eyes, and has mostly alien characteristics, although some human characteristics. And the tiny infants, as they are, exhibit a huge amount of knowledge and wisdom, which they get implanted to them. They don't go to school such as we do. They receive their knowledge from other aliens directly, mind to mind, and often it's done from the human. They put a helmet or a set of probes on the human head, and this is connected with wires or tubes to alien heads, sometimes only one or sometimes several. And they can read everything about us. They can read our minds. They can take all of our emotions, our experiences, and so on, and transfer it to themselves. And then they can transfer it to other aliens. They are learning about us in a very, very in-depth way. They are learning the human experience.
Okay, I got a quick question then. We've talked to a lot of people about men in black usually appearing around UFO events. Would this also be perhaps the aliens appearing as, these men to dissuade people from investigating, or do you believe that'd be the case?
That's
Absolutely.
my thought.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's something Jordan's always mentioned, and so that would explain it. So that's
Mothman
Absolutely.
comes back to haunt. We got another question left.
Yeah, this is from Paula. She called and didn't want to go on the air. She wants to know if which country or region in the world has shown to have the most abductees coming from it.
This is not known for certain because all of the abductee research done in North America, of course, is just done in North America, and the evidence seems to indicate that they're not just hundreds of thousands, but millions of people have been abducted. Mm-hmm. And this hybridization program is going on a massive scale. Now, we don't know about abductions in other continents, in other societies, that sort of thing, because virtually all the books that we read about it are written by American, Canadian, or British authors. This is where we get most of our information from. So what happens in other societies we're really not too much aware of.
Okay. No, she was just wondering about that.
We had another question from the chat room, and it was from Russ Mack. He said, not to sound too skeptical, but does your guest have any evidence? So what kind of evidence might you have, I guess, for this theory behind UFOs and, the astral plane, I guess?
Well, that, of course, is the big hit. Proving things in the paranormal, the astral, is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
For one, a lot of people don't even think that it exists. So if you're going to talk about the paranormal realm, proof is very difficult. And the trouble with that is all astral experiences for people who can astral project and have that experience is purely objective to the person having the experience. It has no meaning whatever to anybody else that doesn't have the experience. So all you can do is go by mystic teachings, and eventually, if you want to try it for yourself, you can, because those abilities are built into us. But in terms of the physical aspects of the UFO, that's long been proven with photographs, radar, imprints, close contacts, and of course what the abductees have to say about the interior of the UFOs themselves. But again, we have to say that all of that is anecdotal. No one brings back any souvenirs off a UFO. There's no pictures taken inside of a UFO. Nobody ever brings a camera with them or can. Everything is very, very tightly controlled by the aliens. And but the only evidence we have for that is consensus. Thousands of people tell the same story. In the final analysis, you can sort out a lot of confabulations and all the rest of the stuff, but when you get right down to the actual objective part of it, everybody tells the same story. And also, you already have a member who's had an implant and it's been removed. There are implants. That's another objective evidence of the abductions. There are scars where they take samples out of people's bodies and so on.
Yeah, and then, and in my opinion, that's one of the most compelling, because you trace evidence and stuff, on the ground, it's pretty compelling. But somebody that actually has this thing put into their body, where do they get it? It's not a splinter or something.
That's right, and that's very compelling evidence. Are the scars and implants of the abductees and the consensus of their stories. And of course, science doesn't buy any of that, and a lot of other people don't buy it, whether you're scientifically minded or not, because anything about the paranormal is difficult to prove, except when you have, but again, now a lot of people will say this is fraud, when you have a documented case like Uri Geller disappearing in New York and crashing into his friend's place 33 miles away.
Do you believe that, though? I mean...
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. But there are many cases of that throughout history of people disappearing in one place and appearing somewhere else. And I suppose the word, the French word apports, I guess it's A-P-P-O-R-T-S, apports, where things disappear in one place and appear somewhere else. And I think perhaps one of the more famous cases of that is Charles Bailey. He was an Australian, and he was studied very extensively by Thomas Stanford, the brother of Leland Stanford, who founded Stanford University.
Yeah.
And a lot of the apports of Charles Bailey are to be seen at Stanford University in Palo Alto in California.
We actually we got a phone call for you now. The individual who said he remembers the implant called to share his story. Are you with us, Clearinghouse?
Yeah.
So share with us kind of what happened.
Well, I mean, my abduction experiences, I really didn't realize I was being abducted till I was in the late teens. And the reason being, I've always been interested in UFOs, always reading about them. For some reason, I was always drawn to that. I finally just realized when I got older that these dreams that I kept having, these wild, outrageous dreams that I'd have every once in a while, were tied together. And the first time the first time I remember, I was maybe 5, and I remember being outside of my grandmother's house, prone on the ground on my stomach, and looking up and seeing. I couldn't move. Looking, somehow being able to move my head and look up, seeing this enormous craft above me with a ring of white lights ringed by brilliant blue lights.
Oh, wow.
Seeing the trees, being able to see that the trees it was right above were just, being swayed like there was huge wind. After that, I don't remember anything. A couple of more times as a teenager, I think the part that I remember, excuse me, the part when it came for the implant it just came in the dreams. And it was one of the most prominent abductions that I had when I was a child, was waking up with the entire house lit up. This is when we'd already moved to our new house, and remembering for some reason being able to look into the hall and seeing something there.
Oh, wow.
Now, you had mentioned on the chat room that you remember seeing an owl at your window a lot. Is that...
Many times.
Many times.
Okay, and that's, Link, you said that commonly it's an owl.
Yeah,
okay.
Growing up and seeing an owl either sitting on the fence looking directly into my room, or actually sitting on the bush that was just outside the window and just looking in. And I always thought, okay, there's an owl. That's something that's, you don't see all the time, so didn't think anything of it until later on that I found out that they can actually shapeshift.
Now, where exactly, where did this take place? Like city-wise?
Growing up, I lived in Texas, originally in Texas. First in a little town called Crane, then lived in another town called Monahans, which is not outside of Odessa, Midland, Texas.
Uh-huh.
When it came to the implant, it was that episode, as it just came days after the abduction episode, and the only reason that it really just stuck out for me, that it just, I started coming back to me bits and pieces, was something was triggered. And in this case, just seeing a light, remembering seeing a car. We lived on a corner, so seeing a car that would come by, how it would light up the room when the car came by. It was just like a cascade. Someone opened the floodgates.
Wow.
And these thoughts started coming through my head. And at night, all these things would come up to me, like they would just open up the floodgates. And like that abduction experience, I remember seeing something in the room and hearing something in my head say, no, no, no. That is the wrong room. That's when my brain realized I'm in my sister's room on her bed. And something else was coming toward me. The other one in the hall was saying, that is the wrong room. He goes over here. And after that, I don't remember anything. A few weeks passed by. All these floodgates started opening up. All these dreams are coming, and I remember feeling something in my leg.
Now, real quick, and Link, if you have anything on this too, is this like an opening up, or is this like a control thing?
Wow. Now, I wasn't able to hear what he said. It was too quiet for me to hear. So you're going to have to give me a little bit of a gist of what he said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He said that when, after he'd got the implant, it was like a flood of just dreams and thoughts and
yes,
all flowing through his head. Would that be an opening, or would that be like a control?
This is common. It's not a control. What's happened to him now is he's far more psychic than he ever was. His psychic abilities have been enhanced very, very considerably. And this is quite a shock to a lot of people. All of these abilities are within us, but they go dormant at a very early age. But we can recapture all of this with practice and training. It's just like I've had to do with a lot of effort to be able to astral project. There's techniques involved. You have to relearn this stuff, but your psychic abilities can be developed and they can come back. But the aliens can do this for you instantly. They can do it for you immediately because their psychic powers are so immense, and they can give these powers thought to thought, brain to brain, to humans or to other aliens or whatever. But his psychic abilities have probably been considerably enhanced.
Have you seen that clearinghouse?
Yes. I have,
Yes.
and you can sense it. I have noticed that my psychic ability, my precognizance, in particular, is very attuned.
Wow.
I can listen. I can listen to somebody, and I can tell you just by touching or listening or being around that person. I can actually start attuning to that person. Sometimes it's a pain because you
can tell what they're
if that
thinking.
person is carrying a lot of baggage, it's like information overload on you.
Now, Link wants to know: is it like telling you what can you tell what other people are thinking?
Yes.
Wow.
I can just sense it. Sometimes I can sense. Sometimes I can sense when something's coming. Sometimes I can sense what they're gonna say. And it's really hard. To it, like I said, sometimes it's information overload. If they're carrying a lot of baggage and they get around you, I live in Chicago, so I had to take the train everywhere.
Yeah.
And kind of hard when you're trying to.
You get like overloaded.
Yeah, there's sometimes if you're completely zoned out, like if I will be in the morning on the way to work, and I'm not listening and I'm just letting my mind open, it can be information overload.
Wow.
On a person, you have to physically shut yourself off.
Wow. Now, Clearinghouse, we do have to let you go, but we'll be talking to you again.
No problem at all, man.
Hey, thank you very much for your call.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Now, Link, this is kind of like crossing paranormal boundaries here. I mean, we're going from the astro plane to psychic abilities to aliens. Now, I'm thinking, like, we always think of these separate, but there is kind of the same. We got 3 minutes left. Can you talk about how? Geez, I don't know. I mean, that's just the psychic ability thing is like, does that usually happen?
Well, what he's been given is an enhancement of psychic ability during his abductions. And this happens with quite a few of the abductees. In fact, they have such abilities that they're not used to having. It's like he said, they're on information overload. They can grasp so many things that we don't normally grasp in our everyday living with our conscious mind. So, yes, the aliens do that for a lot of the abductees. They give them a lot of abilities that they've never had before. And so we have to realize that our mystics are on the cusp of being able to do a lot of what the aliens do. And this is what I talk about in my book a lot, is I get into human capabilities that are the same as alien capabilities. Our mystics are just on the verge of being able to do these many of these things, and that helps people understand the aliens better. You can't just proclaim that the aliens can do this, this, and this, and this. There has to be some proof provided. Well, the proof is the fact that humans can do a lot of the same things. We can create material objects with our minds. And I think perhaps one of the best examples of this, known to most people, is Jesus multiplying 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes to feed 5,000 people. This is called the multiplication of food. Well, there are other mystics who do that today on a regular basis. And one that people can look up if they want is Dr. Philip S. Halley of San Francisco. Look it up on your computer and read about his experiments and doing the same thing.
Now, see, I could do that, but it'd be really, really small portions. All right, your book, we have it. We put it right up on the front of our webpage, whispersradio.com. There's a big picture of it. You can click on that, and it'll take you to Amazon, where you can purchase your book. Or, well, I mean, so other people can purchase your book, because I think you already have a copy.
Right.
I want to thank you very much for joining us today. We do have to cut kind of hard for CNN. We're going to have you back on, because I wish this was like a 2-hour interview, because I'm sucked in right now.
Well, there's lots to talk about. So, I'd love to do it again.
So we're definitely going to have you back on, because I'm really enjoying this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is Mr. Link Alexander, his book, UFOs, Alien Thought Machines.
Thanks, Link.
Bye now.
Bye. All right, you are listening to Whispers Radio here on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We'll be right back after CNN. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Hour number 2 of Whispers Radio here on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is 7:09, 80 degrees here in downtown Wheeling. That's East Coast for all of our non-East Coast listeners. I'm Jordan Klein, Nick Queen, Lola Miller. It is 304-214-1600. And toll free, give us a call, 1-866-514-1600. That clearinghouse, that was an interesting story. I wish it wasn't so close to the end of the hour.
We'll have to get him on the show.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. He didn't even get into the implant. It was more of the abduction.
Yeah.
You were listening to me at all?
No, I actually I'm working on getting a
all right.
interview with him. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
That's Nicky hard at work.
You're like, well, we need to talk to. I'm like, I'm actually doing it. So.
See, that's how we do things.
Hard stuff.
I try to talk and I sound like an idiot, and Nick's the brain. We did get an email not too long ago from a gentleman named Matthew. He was talking about liking the show, and then he wanted to tell a story that had happened to him. He said he was living out, most of you have heard, a carriage house. Nick, you know what a carriage house is?
Yes, he explains it there. Too,
well, I wasn't going to read that part. I figure common knowledge
carriage house. Yeah.
All right.
You don't want to assume that someone else doesn't know, though.
Okay, it says, first thing I noticed was that I would catch a shadow from time to time out of the corner of my eye. Not the first time in my life that I've seen or noticed them, so I didn't think much about it. I'm not sure if what I would be called or termed a sensitive, though I did notice them often wherever I am. I always have. Even when I was really young, I saw what I called purple people. They're normally human shapes. They just had purple silver cast to them, and they weren't really there if you take my meaning. I did stop seeing them right around the time I started first grade, though. I often saw shadow people. One evening, a friend was over, and I saw a woman standing near the front door. She was around 5 foot tall, had long dark hair, and looked somewhat Native American. It startled the crap out of me and the company I had. Noticed something wasn't right. He couldn't see her, but I could. It wasn't a full body apparition, I think, and I saw through her, and I can see the light switch right behind her for the door. In my head, I heard her say, "Don't fear me, my name is Emily," and I just wanted to hear the music I play. Generally, when I'm home, music is playing, and it took me a moment or two to really get what I was hearing in my head. But since she just stood there and smiled and said it again, I put on some music and all was well. A bit later, though, she tickled me for about 10 minutes. See, them tickling ghosts. There were plenty of other incidences in the house, from seeing shadow people, hearing voices. Things would be moved and put in really odd places. Then right about the time I started making plans to move, things got worse. Started noticing dark shadows outside when I would step out to have a cigarette. Now, the dark shadow had a very different feel about it. I didn't like it. A few weeks before I actually moved, I was in the kitchen and the glass of a glass-top coffee table shattered in the living room. Says the only thing I can think about this is something didn't want me to leave and was letting me know that it preferred me to stay. Now, what do you think about that, Nick?
Well, usually if something glass breaks in front of me and it was a ghost, I would be ready to go. I mean, that's the only thing. I mean, and if anything ever happened like that, I would be packing up quicker and leaving. I don't know. I mean, I can understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, it wouldn't want me. Wouldn't be like, oh, that's sweet, I'm staying.
I think it might be like a succubus.
A succubus?
Yeah, like the female demon spirit.
Oh, of course you say it's female.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
What about an incubus?
Well, he said that it was a woman and her name was Emily.
Well, they lie.
Okay, it could be a very feminine male. It's probably pink. That
Okay.
wanted to have relations with the fella.
It's
just
like typical that this is where you jump to.
I think it was a succubus.
You're turning red again.
It was shut up. That
man.
It kind of attached itself to him. So when he was like leaving, maybe it was feeding from his soul or something like that. I think that's really cool. That's from Matthew. Yeah.
So
stop reading, Nick, and participate.
Nick, we're on the radio.
I know. I'm sorry. I wasn't looking. I'm finishing up booking this guest. So, all right, well,
We have no guest, by the way, unless
not
you have
coming?
another phone number.
well,
I just keep getting voicemail. So,
I will send an email. So,
okay.
I'm sorry about that.
All right,
not
well,
your
guess
fault.
what, everybody? I got some pizzas to deliver
Yeah, I
from
was going
the
to say, let's give away the
wonderful,
pizzas.
delicious Elm Grove DeCarlos.
Oh boy, this pinker than pink guy. I think we should just ban him. I mean, he's ridiculous. Why is he even on here if this is the kind of stuff he's going to spout? Now he's saying there are no ghosts. Well, you know what? Get in it. I've got a really great BME chat room. Maybe he would appreciate that one more. You know what that is,
now?
don't you? Body
No.
modification.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean,
Lola's
he
an
might.
angry lady.
Well,
She's
he's
gonna be blogging-
arguing with everybody, and it's just pointless.
Why would you go into a paranormal chat room
Yeah, to argue.
just to say, I don't believe in anything you say?
Okay, we get it.
Well, that's
See
called,
ya.
It's called trolling.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that only happened at certain bars.
Different type of trolling.
Well, we know the circles that Lola hangs around now. Everybody clear as
True,
day. I want to
true.
hear some ghost stories. I got some pizzas to give away, folks. 304-214-1600, 1-866-514-1600. I don't know how much the out-of-area folks would like to come to the Grove to get some DeCarlos, but it is the best.
It is. It is.
Some
That's what we
delicious
give away at
suchins.
the prison.
Well, you know what? I
for
think
those that
there's
showed up there.
a way. I don't know, but I know some of these businesses do ship.
Do they?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. Maybe we can have some DeCarlos shipped out to you overseas.
There you go.
That'd be
I
good
wonder
stuff.
how much that would cost. I'd never even thought about that.
Lola's buying.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
because you'd have to pack it, you'd have to put it in, a box to where it wouldn't spoil. So you're gonna have to put some
Dry ice.
dry ice, some styrofoam, some special packing there. I bet you that would be up there a little bit.
Well, I've gotten live lobsters. Delivered.
Really?
Yeah, Todd and I
As
did.
a pet.
Oh, it was dinner.
Did you torture it? Like, look at the pot you're going into.
I didn't do that. Todd was the one that cooked
Stare
it
at
because I
with your
didn't want to be
beady
in there when
eyes.
they let out that final screech.
I remember. See, I've heard about that. I wouldn't
Yes.
want to do that either. There was a comedian that used to talk about. He'd go over to the lobster pot at Red Lobster and act like he was like Napoleon. Like, bring me that one. Yes, the one with the beady eyes. Steam him and bring him to me. Something like that. Which this shows the typical way some people are with animals.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a big fan of lobster, so I can't say anything.
I love lobster.
My mother-in-law
with
does too.
clarified butter and a really great white wine. Oh my goodness.
I'm a shrimp person myself, so.
Mm-mm-mm.
Well, I have no idea. I'm emailing the guest now and saying, hey, where are you? Why aren't you answering our phone? Lola's going to go to Tennessee. And
I
find
feel
you.
like this is one of the earlier daytime shows now. Don't they always have guest crap out on them?
Yes. Yes, this has not happened to us very often, if ever. Well, you know what? Clearinghouse, you could always call back and continue
let's finish
your
that story,
Yeah,
Clearinghouse.
Clearinghouse, if you want to give us a call. In fact, I will go into the chat room and contact
Give him the 800 number. Oh, he had that one.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So, he could give us a call back.
I am doing that right now.
Oh, Lily, stop talking about strawberry ice cream. See, this is a chat room. So everybody's sitting here and we're not conversing. This is what's wrong with society today. We have lost that personal touch. We just sit here and type our words, even though, like, Jordan and I are typing to each other across the room.
That's only because you love me, Lola, and you're afraid to say it out loud. Don't hide it.
OMG.
All right, finally. I hope this is a guest. That kind of makes me mad.
We'll take
'cause
a guest. If there's any guest out there right now, we'll take you. You want to talk about anything crazy? You want to talk about lobsters and strawberry ice cream? We'll take whatever.
Nick? I'm not sure about ice cream. Oh, okay. There was a UFO sighting in Florida.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm reading it now.
I'm sorry, Jordan. Go ahead.
Was that him?
No.
Oh, let me tell you what. If anybody out there knows Mr. Stacy Allen McGee, the tour director and chief ghost hunting instructor for the Appalachian Ghost Walks,
I will defend him by saying that he said he had a little bit of a phone problem earlier, but he told me when I talked to him finally that it was taken care of. It was resolved.
Well, I got his voicemail. I mean, it's not
that's,
like...
Yeah, that's the business. Did you leave a message?
Yeah.
Was it dirty? Like,
no, not today. I don't know him well enough to start talking dirty.
Nasty. I'm talking, you know.
Oh, no. I just said, well, I thought you were going to be a guest today. So.
I'm sure hopefully nothing bad came up. I mean, it's...
All right, well, we're gonna cut to a break real quick. We're gonna figure this out because
I wasn't expecting.
I'm not gonna sit here and ramble for the next couple minutes. So we'll be right back on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog.
Nothing.
The former West Virginia Penitentiary housed some of the most violent criminals in history. Many of the prisoners who lived there also died there. It is known for being one of the most bloody institutions in the United States. Don't miss your chance to experience the former West Virginia Penitentiary. Your tour will consist of an astonishing 90 minutes that offers an awesome history, a touch of art, cold hard facts, and an education of the justice system. Tours start 11 a.m. Tuesday through Sunday. For more information, go to www.wvpentours.com or call them at 304-843-4146. Well, folks, when it rains, it storms. That's how it goes here. That's live radio. I'm Jordan Klein here with Nick Queen, the lovely Lola Miller. You're listening to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog.
Not so fast. We got time here.
And UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. You can check it out at paranormalradionetwork.com.
Just a quick since you started talking so slow, on my message at home for my home answering machine, I do say, and speak slowly, because most of these people rattle off phone numbers so quickly that you don't have time to write it down. So whenever my son calls, it's, "This is your son." It's like, yep, this is my moron, all right.
Speaking of answering machines, somebody just got a not pleasant one.
I know. But that's all right, you know. I mean, we've got how many lines here? He can't actually say he couldn't get hold of us.
That's right. So. What we did, folks, because I wasn't done listening to the great Link Alexander, we decided to call him, see if he wanted to finish his stories, give you guys a chance to chime in with your stories. I know Manuel had a clip on of one of his experiences. So we got him now. Link, you with us? Maybe? Did Link leave us too?
Here we are.
There we are. I was having a little separation anxiety, Link.
Okay.
All right, what was the last thing we were talking about before we got so rudely interrupted?
Yeah, CNN will do that to you every time.
Well, let's see. We were talking about alien abductions, what goes on in an abduction, what people have experienced about their implants. I think we may have left off there.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, now, here's what we were talking about in the chat room. When you have an implant, okay, let's say they were from the aliens, and they took you and they implanted you. If they got you in the first place, why do they need to implant you? I mean, if there's such a higher, consciousness, a higher being, don't they have the power to control us kind of anyway? There was even suggestion that maybe implants were man-made.
Well,
maybe government tracking.
Well, it doesn't seem that the implants are man-made. And from some of the implants that have been removed, we found some very interesting things. In one instance, the implant that was taken out appeared to have a complete nervous system. It seemed that there was an entity in the person along with the implant. And this could very well be the case because the consensus of thoughts from the abductees seems to be the implant is not for tracking. They can track us by our thoughts. The implant is for an entity that's within us to give us information that we're going to have to know at a certain time. They call that time the change. There's a change coming according to the aliens. That's what they tell the abductees. There's going to be a catastrophic event, whether started by them or by us, but it could be by us because they show the abductees many scenes of devastation as in an atomic conflict, and that's when the aliens are going to intervene in, shall we say, in our affairs. The entire operation of the aliens is to produce hybrids to live on Earth. And this seems to be every indication that the abductees get. And the people who carry the implants are told that at the time of the change, and they keep using that expression, the change, that they will know what to do. They'll be guided by the aliens. They'll know what to do. They're going to serve a particular function. They don't know what it is, but they say they'll know when the time comes. And that seems to be the purpose of the implants.
That reminds me of, we were talking with Joseph Peterson about 2012, and that this is an event that's supposed to be coming that's either going to be apocalyptic or a big change, no matter what. Could that be what we're the aliens are thinking of, or
the aliens never give a date. Of everything I've read, there are never any dates mentioned. All they say is it will be soon, whatever that means. Soon for an alien who could live many hundreds of thousands of years could be something that's not soon for us. It could be a whole different time scale to them. But the word is that it would be soon. But it would have to be soon because the lifetimes of the abductees, of course, are limited, so it'd have to be within their lifetimes. Whether it has any relation to 2012 or not, I have no idea. But what's so fascinating about 2012 is there's so many, shall we say, forecasts or projections or prophecies that there will be an immense change in 2012. And even the precise date is given, which I'm sure you've heard, December 21st.
Oh, of course. Now, What do you think's going to, what do you think's going to happen? Do you think this is, I know you said that you thought that they were going to be coming here to cohabitate the planet with us. Some people would say maybe they remove us from the planet. What do you think? Do you think they're benevolent? Do you think they're malevolent?
Well, there's absolutely those two schools of thought on it. There are a lot of people think they're very benevolent. Others feel that they're malevolent. Now, they go out of their way to not hurt us, or if they do hurt us, I guess a lot of people describe it as no worse than a trip to the dentist's office. The dentist takes every care that he can not to hurt you.
Now, I've actually had conversations with contactees that actually when he was able to stay awake through the abduction process, and they did very unpleasant things to him, and they were painful. And
that's very often the case, but they erase those memories. Lots of times, very few people remember their abduction experience. Most of what we know comes through hypnosis, although some people are awake during the entire experience. And it is true, they do conduct some very painful things on people. But the aliens go out of their way to erase that memory. But they are recaptured during hypnosis. So there is two schools of thought, as you had indicated. One is they're angels, the other is they're devils, and they do give a lot of gifts to the abductees in terms of abilities, psychic abilities, healing. They do a lot for the abductees, and it seems that the abductees have a purpose when this change, as they call it, takes place. We don't know about the rest of us who are non-abductees, and some people say that we're expendable, or that seems to be the feeling that some abductees have, is that the abductees are the favored ones and the rest of us are not. what is so remarkable about this whole abduction experience and the entire UFO alien experience is that they can conduct this massive, massive hybrid campaign, abducting millions of people, doing this on a massive scale, and making humanity virtually, almost totally unaware of it. The scientific community certainly has not woken up to it, and I don't think most of humanity has not woken up to it. But when you read the immense amount of material coming from the abductees, it's very scary, to tell you the truth. But there are also the people who are very positive about the experience. They say that they're here to help us, everything is for our benefit, and so on and so on. But I guess we have to look at the whole thing a number of different ways. And the other thing that we don't know is whether or not the aliens are deceiving us. Now, they certainly deceive us in a lot of ways during the abduction. They tell us that they're not going to hurt us, and they do hurt us. And they erase the memory. They do a lot of experiments on us that say that are not going to affect us, and yet people lots of times have traumatized lives and so on. So we're not entirely sure as to the ethics of the alien as to whether or not they're totally honest with us. But the indication, definitely, what has emerged from the whole thing is that they plan on living here with us and to be absolutely in control of us. Well, they are now, and they won't have any problem doing it because of their vastly superior technology and the capability of their minds. They can control our minds with their minds, no problem at all.
Okay, I got a couple questions for you. One's from Big Daddy. He wants to know if you've ever been abducted or implanted. And from Barb A, it's why do they erase your memories, and how do they choose how are the abductees chosen?
Okay. Firstly, the abductees ask that question, like, why me, sort of thing. And the answer that the aliens give is generally that we are not the ones who do the choosing. That's done by others. So presumably there's a hierarchy somewhere in the alien society that has picked out who will be abducted. And these are the people that will provide the sperm and the ova and so on for the reproduction. These are why particular abductees are chosen seems to be a mystery. They come from all walks of life, anything from politicians to professors to lawyers to working people. There doesn't seem to be any particular strata that they pick on, nor is it known if they pick on any particular race, because most of what we know about all this comes from the research of our own people here in North America. Now, have I ever been abducted? No, I have not. I know I have not. I've never been implanted. I have never had any of the indications of abduction whatever, although my son has, which is interesting because generally...
It's generational, right?
It's generational. That's right. But my son has all the indications of being abducted. In fact, we've worried about him a few times in his youth because of missing time. When he should have been home, he didn't show up for a couple hours, and nobody knew where he was. No, I've never had that experience. I would like to have it, but the fact of the matter is, if at my stage of life I've never been abducted, I am of no use to the aliens, and they will not abduct me. So I don't have to worry about that.
Why are you no use? I have to ask.
Why what?
Why are you of no use to them?
Well, because they like to watch our emotional and experiential development all through a person's life. The abductions generally start about age 3. And at that stage, the abductee or the aliens are teaching abductees certain things to be cooperative and so on for their hybridization program. And also, they do a thing on abductees called mind scan, where the alien looks into the person's eyes from a very, very close range, only a few inches away. And those deep black eyes absolutely take in the person in total. The abductee will know everything about that person, all their innermost feelings, their entire history of their lives. The abductee when they look into those eyes, firstly, they cannot look away, and they know that their very soul, everything about them is revealed to the alien.
Really?
So this is a process that goes on for an entire lifetime. Someone at my age, they're not of interest in me at this point.
Okay, well, I got another question, because we talked earlier about, kind of the main purpose was kind of making hybrids, the reproductive aspect of it. Let's say, you're abducted your entire life, and then you get like a vasectomy or a hysterectomy, something like that. How is that changed with your abduction patterns?
Okay, firstly, if that happens, and this happens with some women, they get a hysterectomy or whatever, and they can no longer reproduce for the aliens. They're quite aware of that, and they still abduct the person for their social behavior and for their emotions and so on. They continue the observation for the rest of their lives, even though the person is not useful to them in terms of their reproduction program.
And we have a lot of questions coming from the chat room. The first one I'll ask come from Linda Keeper. She asks, could it be that there are more than one type of aliens and their methods and reasons are different? And that actually ties in with a question I had talking about on your website, and you have two different, the Drake formula and then something that you changed, a modified version of it. And one of the factors you have is called the N, and then you're adding S to that, which is N represented in the Drake equation, the number of intelligent civilizations, and you changed that to alien societies visiting us. So can you tie those in together? I know you mentioned that there's 10 different ones mentioning us, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And
well, that seems to be the number of different aliens that people have spotted, although this could be very deceptive because of the ability of the Greys, or any alien for that matter, to shapeshift. So everything that people think they're seeing about different aliens could very well just be the Greys themselves in different forms. People have reported the reptilian-looking type. People have reported aliens that are on all fours, and they've reported all kinds of shapes and forms. But that may not be indicative of different alien societies. The overwhelming contact has been with the Greys. And no abductee describes an abduction with any other type of alien. Now, they talk about different forms, but on board the Grey UFOs. So these could very well just be the Greys presenting various forms to the abductee. And we may not, maybe the most positive indication that we may be visited by other civilizations is these black triangles that people see at night. They're only seen at night. They're massive. They're triangular in shape. They're totally dark, and they fly over at night. They're seen quite often, and they fly off, and there doesn't seem to be any contact with whoever has that vehicle. Also, the huge boomerang-shaped objects that are apparently massive when they fly over. People see these things.
That's kind of like Phoenix, right?
Yes.
Okay.
As in Phoenix, right. So people describe a number of different ships, but that's not entirely indicative of other alien societies either, because of the ability of any alien society to shapeshift, because none of them will get here without being highly developed in multi-dimensional capabilities, such as the astral, such as the type of thing I talk about in my book. Physical interstellar travel is a non-starter. They all get here through other dimensions. It's the only thing that works and makes sense.
So you're saying that the aliens aren't like outer space, they're more astral and dimensional?
Well, they're physical, just like us. They come from another planet. They're absolutely physical like us. That's been verified many times by the abductees, except they have exceptional abilities to do all kinds of other things. They can disappear. They can reappear. They can shapeshift. They can be any size, any shape. They can virtually do anything they want in their presentation to us. So how many different aliens we're seeing is really a mystery. But the overwhelming contact and what's going on is with the graves.
Now, why do you think so much? I know, like I said earlier, the first hour, the gentleman that I knew that thought they were more light projections would say that kids would appear in his kitchen. Like there'd be a bunch of kids dressed like really old-fashioned, just standing in his kitchen, and then the abduction would happen. But he always said that they were grays and they like to mess with you, and that's kind of what they did. Why do you think that it's the grays that are I guess, you said before that they were wanted to live with us, but
yes.
Why?
Well, they have designs on living here. Now, why that would be is a good question, because firstly, they have access to not only our galaxy, they have access to the universe. As any society that can function in the astral dimension, you have access to the universe. The Earth is a very beautiful place. It's very hospitable to life, and the Greys themselves aren't what our women are reproducing. They're producing a hybrid, and this could be a process of the Greys introducing versions of themselves on various planets. The hybrid is partially gray and partially human. So we could have a process going on here of simply extending their society, their civilization, their being into other planets.
Now, would you say, we got another question from Barbet wanting to know if the aliens were they based on like a male-female, like biologically, or are they something different?
Well, firstly, no one ever sees any genitalia on them. They don't eat, they don't drink, they don't breathe, they don't have sexual organs, they don't pass urine, they don't pass feces. The aliens are quite an entity, and this is another item I get to the book on. We are on the cusp of going the same, if we give ourselves time in evolution, of going exactly down the same path. But now, what was our question again? I got slightly diverted here.
If they were male and female.
Okay. There's no visible sign of male and female, although the abductees know there's some feeling about it, that one is male and one is female.
Okay. Now, you were talking about hybrids. What happens to the hybrid babies? Like, are there possibly some form of hybrid living amongst us now? And we don't know about it, or
yes, that seems to be the indication. They've created not just the small hybrid that's alien-human mix, but also versions of hybrid that are very much human, that are virtually indistinguishable from human, but have a great deal of the alien capabilities. And the consensus is that they are among us now, and what their functions are exactly, they may be dormant until this change comes. Yes, the consensus is that there are human-alien hybrids that look just like us. They're indistinguishable from us.
Now, to what extent would they be living? I mean, I know this is kind of off the topic of your book and stuff, but just something that kind of got my curiosity going. Like, are they like living in homes, or would they be like beaming down and coming out and like in our like extras in a movie? You know what I mean? Like they're amongst us, but they're not like grounded here. Or I mean, do they have birth certificates and social security cards like me and Lola?
That would be interesting, because they have put some of the abductees to the test. They've presented families to abductees and said, "Can you tell the difference?" So what they're asking the abductee, can you tell the difference between humans and hybrids? And the abductees can't tell the difference. So how they integrate, whether they have all of those things, social insurance cards and you name it, and the rest of the stuff, abductees don't seem to talk about that much, other than they're indistinguishable from the rest of society.
Okay, well, I got a quick question. Okay, you said that there's 10 different societies. We've been talking mostly about the Greys. What other societies are out there? I mean, I'm thinking, reptilians. I can't think of any other ones.
Well,
which ones are out there? Can you give me a quick description of each? Or
well, they're supposed to be very tall ones that look more insect-like.
Now, do they look like the District 9?
Like what?
The movie District 9?
I haven't seen it.
No? Okay.
I haven't seen the movie. The reptilian-looking type, and also there's been ones described that are hairy and on all fours. There's also been one described that's about 8 feet and very, very heavy, stocky build that makes deep imprints in the ground. Those basically are the types. But other small types have been described as well, similar to the grays, but not looking exactly like the gray, like having more features like us. As far as 10 distinct types, some researchers say there appears to be 10 types based on different spaceships, based on different UFOs and such. But then that's a tough one to prove because any or all of them can shapeshift.
Sure.
So you really don't know how many are here.
But another one of the someone in the chat room had asked if they have ethics or moral principles, and I'm guessing each of these societies would have their own way of approaching it. Because a lot of what the Greys are doing, it seems like what we do with animals, picking them out and testing them and doing kind of a longitudinal study of how they experience life and so forth over the long term. But I mean, other ones might have no regard for what we're doing, or might have more regard. Would that be the case?
Well, the ethics of the Greys seem to be that exactly what you're saying. They're using us like lab animals. They're using us for reproductive purposes. They don't seem to have a great regard for our society because they tell us, and very correctly, that we're a very belligerent, destructive species. They want to learn certain things from us, but not a great deal from us. It seems that one of the things they want to learn the most is the capacity to love, which they seem to have lost. They're very matter-of-fact, they're very straightforward, they're very unemotional, is the impression that the abductees get. And when the mothers are introduced to their offspring, these hybrid offspring, one of the big demands or requests, shall we say, that the aliens ask of the mothers is to hold the infant and care for it and stroke it and give it love. That is one thing that the aliens seem to want very badly, is that emotion from us. They really don't seem to want anything else. They study us very intently. They know what we're like. But when it comes to ethics, then we can say, yes, we are violated. The abductees, of course, tells the story. We're abducted against our will. But in terms of overall treatment of our species, they go out of their way to erase memories of pain or trauma. They don't kill us. They treat the abductees very, very well. Many abductees say they're totally in love with the aliens. Many abductees are very positive about the aliens. We cannot say that they treat us worse than we treat ourselves. We treat ourselves far worse, as a matter of fact. So the ethics involved here are so far, shall we say, neutral in benefit. The abductees have some benefit, but the rest of our society does not. But we don't know if there's deceit involved. Now, the aliens do indulge in deceit about the abduction process, what they're going to do. They tell us things sometimes that aren't true about their intentions and purposes. But by and large, if the abductees ask questions about their intent and purpose and where they're from and all that, their answers are quite palliative and just simply say, that's not for you to know. You'll know when the time comes, and so on and so on. They don't answer our questions about their intent directly. Now, that's not to say that it's not one huge deception waiting for us.
Yeah.
We don't know those things.
Now, just to clarify, there was people. How many abductees have you spoken with, and where does your research come from? Well,
my research comes from the research of the psychiatrists and the people who are doing the research.
Okay.
I don't interview Well, when I say interview people, yeah, I talk to people that I know have been abducted and ask them questions and that sort of thing. But it's certainly not a professional research, in-depth research. The people that do it have written many books on the topic, and I have studied their writings very intensively because I'm very, very interested in what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And having had 4 sightings, and knowing what I do about the esoteric realm, the psychic realm, I know what the alien capabilities. I know what they're doing, and how they can do it, and how they can make use of an energy or of a universal energy that's available to everyone. Well, they can make fantastic use of this, just as we do. For instance, Jesus did, multiplying food, or when we create material objects with our minds, and when we create a porch, transforming ourselves or an object from one place to another. We can use some of their abilities. This has captivated my interest, and I'm very, very interested in knowing the alien intent.
Yeah.
And I'm no wiser there than anybody else, but I certainly am fascinated by the topic. I think more so because of my esoteric studies and what I know about these realms and what can be done.
Okay, so you're more or less entering into it from the, from the astral projection, the curious side of astral projection, the powers of the mind,
yes,
and looking at it as to how the aliens themselves would utilize that.
Exactly.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
That aspect of it, the physical aspect is well known, and I have certain opinions of Roswell, which I think is an urban myth, but that's another topic.
Now, I want to ask you, earlier you said that you've seen 4 UFOs, correct?
Yes.
And that, they're not hard to miss once you spot them.
Well, they do things that, one woman described it saying that they do things that airplanes can't do. And each sighting exhibits all the characteristics, at least the 4 sightings I've had, of a typical UFO. Firstly, in every case, they just appeared out of nowhere. They were just suddenly there. Maybe I can describe one instance. I used to watch skydivers falling out of an airplane from my backyard through binoculars quite often.
Yeah.
Well, I'd watch them, and then they'd free fall behind some trees, and then I'd lose sight of them. But this is an event I used to watch on the weekend quite frequently, like I say, through binoculars, watch these guys jump out. Well, one day, about 10 minutes after they had jumped out and the airplane had gone, there was a really bright light in the sky, sort of in that area of sky, and I had my binoculars, so I put the binoculars on this bright light. Well, lo and behold, it became a disc. It was no longer just a dot, it was a disc. Well, I'm watching it for a little while, and now this disc is going back and forth, which is typical of a UFO maneuver. It'll go sideways for a certain distance, and then it'll go back and sideways the other way for a certain distance, and they jump back and forth several times. This has been observed many, many times. And then after one of those, it shot off across the horizon. It covered the entire horizon, probably in about 1 second. That is typical of UFO behavior.
Now let's say our lovely producer Lola, who is dying to have some kind of experience. I
have seen a UFO.
Don't you want to see more?
Well, yeah, but I'm not a virgin at this.
A paravirgin?
Uh-huh.
What would she have to do to see more then?
Well, you really can't do anything.
You just have to be in the right place at the right time, right?
And you just have to be lucky.
Yeah.
The more often you can look into the night sky, the better your chances are. And I say the night sky because they're lit up and they're easier to see. In the day sky, you're just going to be plain lucky to see one. My 4 sightings have taken place over 44 years. So my first sighting was in 1964. So all of my chances were I've been firmly on the ground, minding my own business, and just happened to be looking into the right portion of the sky when I would see the event. One of them lasted about 2 minutes, one of my sightings, and the others lasted no more than about 30 seconds. So you just kind of have to be lucky.
Well, there you go,
I'm
Lo.
just not lucky then.
Joe Montaldo says go to the Gulf Breeze and spend a week and you'll see one.
Well, Gulf Breeze, if you read the account of Gulf Breeze, my God, there were several months where they would appear regularly every night. They had one they called the 9 o'clock UFO. At 9 o'clock regularly it would show up. Gulf Breeze has had thousands of sightings, many thousands of photographs. In fact, Gulf Breeze was so regular, the Navy put up radar picket balloon, was tracking the whole area on radar, and as soon as one would appear, helicopters would come madly chasing to the location. The Navy knew they were there. The Navy was trying real hard to get a look or whatever. But Gulf Breeze was a very, very well-known episode of UFO sightings.
Wow. What state is that? What country?
Florida.
Florida, yeah.
Country.
Okay. Gulf
Sorry.
Breeze, that could be anywhere.
Sorry.
Nick, what? Don't be so mean to me.
I'm sorry, that was mean.
All right, Link, it is time for us to go. Thank you very
Again.
much. We're cutting you off, Link.
All right.
Actually, I think now at this point you've been the person that's been on the show the longest.
Oh, well.
On one show. So
There we are. That's an honor.
There you go.
And I'm
You-
grateful.
Thank you very much for
Lola will
for
bake you
saving
some
us.
cookies and send them in the mail.
Okay, terrific.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
What do you think, Lo? You want any more UFO experiences?
I do not want to be abducted. I can just tell you that right now. I don't handle pain well, and I don't believe they can block it out enough, you know. But I would like to. I know what I saw, and I've had people really argue with me because it did happen down in on Alligator Alley.
Was
through
it
the
Todd that
Everglades.
argued with you a lot about that? I remember Todd or George. did?
George was impossible to even discuss
Yeah.
the entire thing. But no, just over the course of my life, I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, it was swamp gas, it was a smuggler's plane, because it was in the Everglades.
Yeah.
But we know what we saw. And, you know, you'll never shake me on that one. Would I like to see another one? Yes. Do I want to be abducted? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
See, my fear is that if I see one, they're going to know that I saw them, and then they're going to abduct me.
Take you.
So I'm afraid to, look up sometimes. I believe that's enough. I don't want to see you.
I don't really want to be abducted. I don't even look at me. If something
Nikki.
came, I'm running.
As if it were a snake, Nicky'd be out of there.
And we know how much I hate snakes. Especially if it was a reptilian. Someone said earlier they were more gentle than the
Now you
Grays.
tell me what
I'm
looks like a salamander could be more gentle.
And picture Nick as afraid of snakes as he is. that
Yeah,
if
if
one
a
comes up-
reptilian
and
comes,
let's
I'm
say-
dead.
Let's say it has like a little flippy tongue,
Oh, forget
and it just flips it.
This
Nick
is a
would
man
jump.
that won't drive down a road that has snakes on it because he thinks they're going to jump on the axle and somehow come into the engine from the engine.
My wife brought some
compartment.
clothes. She wanted me to go and take to the dryer, and she just decides to go ahead and go herself the other day and take them over. And then she comes back and she said, "Be glad that I didn't ask you to go to the dryer, because we have to go where I live. There's a washer and dryer that's in like a building for the apartment."
Yeah.
And she said a garter snake went under the door into the laundry room.
Oh my gosh.
And then she had to go and get it out of the laundry room. I wouldn't have. The clothes would have been all over the yard.
Mm-hmm.
I would have ran screaming. Yes, I know garter snakes are not deadly.
All right, Nick's a little girl.
Yeah,
That's
when it comes
that's
to
where we're at.
snakes.
That's all the time we got for this week, everybody. Tune in next week. It's going to be another great show, and hopefully we're going to have our guests actually call. So, yeah, you know how that is. Until next week, everybody, don't be afraid. Only believe.